حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل، نعم المولى ونعم النصير، ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. دعاء مريض جميعا. عما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. 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 بحق فاطمة الزهراء وأبيها وبعلها وبنيه. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أسألك برحمتك التي وسعت كل شيء، وبقوتك التي قهرت بها كل شيء، وخزع لها كل شيء، وذل لها كل شيء، وبجبروتك التي غلبت بها كل شيء، وبعزتك التي لا يقوم لها شيء، وبعظمتك التي ملأت كل شيء، وبسلطانك الذي على كل شيء، وبوجهك الباقي بعد فناء كل شيء، وبأسمائك التي ملأت أركان كل شيء، وبعلمك الذي أحاط بكل شيء، وبنور وجهك الذي أضاء له كل شيء. جميعا. يا نور يا قندوس يا أول الأولين ويا آخر الآخرين، اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تحت كل عصام. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل النقام. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تغير النعم. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تحبس الدعاء. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تقطع الرجاء. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل البلاء. اللهم اغفر لي كل ذنب أذنبته وكل خطيئة أخطأتها. اللهم إني أتقرب إليك بذكرك، وأستشفئ بك إلى نفسك، وأسألك بجودك أن تدنيني من كربك، وأن توزعني شكرك، وأن تلهمني ذكرك. اللهم إني أسألك سؤال خاضع متذلل خاشع، أن تسامحني وترحمني وتجعلني باسمك راضيا قانيا، وفي جميع الأحوال متواضعا. اللهم وأسألك السؤال من اشتدت فاقته وأنزل بك عند الشدائد حاجته، وأظم فيما عندك رغبته. اللهم عظم سلطانك وعلى مكانك، وخفي مكرك وظهر أمرك، وغلب قهرك وجرت قدرتك. ولا يمكن الفرار من حكومتك. اللهم لا أجد لذنوبي غافرا، ولا لقبائه ساترا، ولا لشيء من عملي القبيح بالحسن مبدلا غيرك. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك وبحمدك. ظلمت نفسي وتجرعت بجهلي، وسكنت إلى قديم ذكرك لي ومنك علي. اللهم مولاي كم من قبيح سترته، وكم من فادهم من البلاء يقلته، وكم من إثار وقيته، وكم من مكروه دفعته، وكم من ثناء جميل لست أحلى له نشرته. اللهم عظم بلائي، وأفرت بي سوء حالي، وقسرت بي أعمالي، وقعدت بي أغلالي، وحبسني النفي بعد أمالي، وخدعتني الدنيا بغرورها، ونفسي بجنايتها ومثالي. يا سيدي فأسألك بعزتك أن لا يحجب عنك دعائي سوء عملي وفعالي، ولا تفضحني بخفي ما اطلعت عليه من سري، ولا تواجلني بالعقوبة على ما عملته في خلواتي من سوء فعلي وإساءتي، ودوام تفريطي وجهالتي، وكثرة شحواتي وغفلتي. وكن اللهم بعزتك لي في كل الأحوال رؤوفا، وعلي في جميع الأمور يتوفا. إلهي وربي من لي غيرك، أسأله كشف ذري والنظر في أمري. إلهي ومولاي أجريت علي حكما اتبعت فيه هوى نفسي، ولم أحترس فيه من تزيين يدوي، فغرني بما أحوى، وأسأده على ذلك القضاء، فتجاوزت بما جرى علي من ذلك بعد حدودك، وخالفت بعد أوامرك، فلك الحجة علي في جميع ذلك، ولا حجة لي فيما جرى علي فيه قضاؤك، وألزمني حكمك وبلاؤك. وقد أتيتك يا إلهي بعد تكسيري وإسرافي على نفسي، معتذرا نادما منكسرا مستقيلا، مستغفرا منيبا، مكرا مذنا معترفا. لا أجد مفرا من مكان مني، ولا مفزعا أتوجه إليه في أمري غير قبولك عذري، وإدخالك إياي في سعة من رحمتك. اللهم فاقبل عذري، وارحم شدة ذري، وفكني من شدي وثاقي. يا رب ارحم ضعف بدني، وركة جلدي، ودكة عزمي. يا من بدا خلقي وذكري وتربيتي وبري وتغذيتي، حبني لابتداء كرمك وصالف برك بي يا إلهي وسيدي وربي. أتراك معذبي بنارك بعد توحيدك، وبعد من ضوى عليه قلبي من معرفتك، ولهج به لساني من ذكرك، واعتقده ضميري من حبك، وبعد صدق اعترافي ودعائي خاضعا لربوبيتك، هيهات أنت أكرم من أن تضيع من ربيت، أو تبعد من أدنيت، أو تشرد من آويت، أو تسلم إلى البلاء من كفيته ورحمت. وليت شعري يا سيدي وإلهي ومولاي أتسلط النار على وجوه خرت لعظمتك ساجدا، وعلى ألسن نطقت بتوحيدك صادقا وبشكرك مادحا، وعلى قلوب اعترفت بإلهيتك محققا، وعلى ضمائر حوت من العلم بك حتى صارت خاشعة، وعلى جوارح سعت إلى أوتان تعبدك طائعة، وأشارت باستغفارك مزنا. ما هكذا الظن بك، ولا أخبرنا بفضلك عنك يا كريم. يا ربي وأنت تعلم ضعفي عن قليل من بلاء الدنيا وعقوباتها، وما يجري فيها من المكاره على أهلها، على أن ذلك بلاء ومكروه قليل مكثوه، يسير بقاؤه قصير مدته، فكيف احتمال لبلاء الآخرة وجليل وقوع المكاره فيها، وهو بلاء تطول مدته ويدوم مقامه ولا يخفف عن أهله، لأنه لا يكون إلا عن غضبك وانتقامك وسخطك، وهذا ما لا تقوم له السماوات والأرض. يا سيدي فكيف بي وأنا عبدك الضعيف الذليل الحقير المسكين المستكين. يا إلهي وربي وسيدي ومولاي، لأي الأمور إليك أشكو، ولما منها أزج وأبكي ليليم العذاب وشدته، أم لطول البلاء ومدته؟ فلئن سيرتني للعقوبات مع أعدائك، وجمعت بيني وبين أهل بلائك، وفرقت بيني وبين أحبائك وأوليائك، فحبني يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي وربي. صبرت على عذابك، فكيف أصبر على فراقك؟ وحبني صبرت على حر نارك، فكيف أصبر عن النظر إلى كرامتك؟ أم كيف أسكن في النار ورجائي يفوق؟ فبعزتك يا سيدي ومولاي أقسم صادقا، لئن تركتني ناطقا لأزجن إليك بين أهلها زجيج العاملين، ولا أصرخن إليك صراخ المستصرخين، ولا أبكين عليك بقاء الفاقدين، ولا أنادينك أين كنت يا ولي المؤمنين جميعا. يا غاية آمال العارفين، يا غياث المستغيثين، يا حبيب قلوب الصادقين، ويا إله العالمين، أفتراك سبحانك يا إلهي وبحمدك تسمع فيها صوت عبد مسلم سجن فيها بمخالفته، وذاق طعم عذابها بمعصيته، وحبس بين أطباقها بجرمه وجريرته، وهو يزج إليك زجيجا مؤمل لرحمتك، ويناديك بلسان أهل توحيدك، ويتوسل إليك بربوبيتك يا مولاي. فكيف يبقى في العذاب وهو يرجو ما سلف من حلمك؟ أم كيف تؤلمه النار وهو يعمل فضلك ورحمتك؟ أم كيف يحركه لهيبها وأنت تسمع صوته وترى مكانه؟ أم كيف يشتمل عليه زفيرها وأنت تعلم ضعفا؟ أم كيف يتقلقل بين أطباقها وأنت تعلم صدقا؟ أم كيف تزجره زبانيتها وهو يناديك يا رب؟ أم كيف يرجو فضلك في يتكه منها فتتركه فيها؟ هيهات ما ذلك الظن بك ولا المعروف من فضلك، ولا مشبه لما عملت به الموحدين من برك وإحسانك. فباليقين أقطع لولا ما حكمت به من تعذيب جاهديك وقضيت به من إخلاد معانديك، لجعلت النار كلها بردا والسلاما، وما كان لأحد فيها مكرا ولا مقاما، لكنك تقدست أسماؤك أقسمت أن تملأها من الكافرين من الجنة والناس أجمعين، وأن تخلد فيها المعاندين، وأنت جل ثناؤك قلت مبتدئا وتتولت بالإنعام متكرما. أفمن كان مؤمنا كمن كان فاسقا لا يستوون. إلهي وسيدي فأسألك بالقدرة التي قدرتها وبالقضية التي حتمتها وحكمتها وغلبت من عليه أجريتها أن تحب لي في هذه الليلة وفي هذه الساعة جميعا كل جرم أجرمته وكل ذنب أذنبته وكل قبيح أسررته وكل جهل عملته كتمته أو أعلنته أخفيته أو أظهرته وكل سيئة أمرت بإثباتها الكرام الكاتبين الذين وكلتهم بحفظ ما يكون مني وجعلتهم شهودا علي مع جواره، وكنت أنت الرقيب علي من ورائهم والشاهد لما خفي عنهم، وبرحمتك أخفيت وبفضلك سترت، وأن توفر حظي من كل خير تنزله أو إحسان تفضله أو بر تنشره أو رزق تبسطه أو ذنب تغفره أو خطأ تستره. يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي ومالك رقي، يا من بيده ناسيتي، يا عليما بذري ومسكنتي، يا خبيرا بفقري وفاقتي. يا ربي يا ربي يا رب أسألك بحقك وقدسك وأعظم صفاتك وأسمائك أن تجعل أوقاتي في الليل والنهار بذكرك معمورا وبخدمتك موصولا وأعمالي عندك مقبولا حتى تكون أعمالي وأورادي كلها وردا واحدا وحالي في خدمتك سرمدا يا سيدي يا من عليه مؤولي يا من إليه شكوت أحوالي يا ربي يا ربي يا رب قوّ على خدمتك جواره واشدد على العزيمة جوانه وهب لي الجد في خشيتك والدوام في الاتصال بخدمتك حتى أسرح إليك في ميادين السابقين وأسرع إليك في المبادرين وأشتاق إلى قربك في المشتاقين وأدنو منك دنو المخلصين وأخافك مخافة الموقنين وأجتمع في جوارك مع المؤمنين اللهم ومن أرادني بسوء فأرد ومن كادني فكيد واجعلني من أحسن يبيدك نسيبا عندك وأقربهم منزلة منك وأخسهم زلفة لديك فإنه لا ينال ذلك إلا بفضلك وجد لي بجودك واعتف علي بمجدك واحفظني برحمتك واجعل لساني بذكرك لهجا وقلبي بحبك متيما ومن علي بحسن إجابتك وأقلني أثرتي واغفر زلتي فإنك قضيت على عبادك بإبادتك وأمرتهم بدعائك وزمنت لهم الإجابة جميعا فإليك يا ربي نصبت وجهي وإليك يا ربي مددت يدي فبعزتك استجب لدعائي وبلغني مناي ولا تقطع من فضلك رجائي واكفني شر الجن والإنس من أعدائي يا سريع الرضا اغفر لمن لا يملك إلا الدعاء فإنك فعال لما تشاء يا من اسمه دواء وذكره شفاء وطاعته غنى ارحم من رأس ماله الرجاء وسلاهه البكاء يا سابغ النعم يا دافع النقام يا نور المستوحشين في الظلام يا عالما لا يؤلم صل على محمد وآل محمد وافعل بما أنت حلو وصلى الله على رسوله والأئمة الميامين من آله وسلم تسليما كثيرا. سورة المباركة الفاتحة.
بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم. تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم فهم غافلون. لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون. إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فهي إلى الأذقان فهم مقمحون. وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون. وسواء عليهم أأنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون. إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشره بمغفرة وأجر كريم. إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين. واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاءها المرسلون إذ أرسلنا إليهم 2 فكذبوهما فعززنا بثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون. قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون. قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين. قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم منا عذاب عليم. قالوا طائركم معكم أئن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون. وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون. وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون. أتخذ من دونه آلهة إن يردني الرحمن بضر لا تغن عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون. إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين. إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون. قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون. بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين. وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعده من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين. إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون. يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون. ألم يروا كم أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون. وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محضرون. وآية لهم الأرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون. وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملته أيديهم أفلا يشكرون. سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون. وآية لهم الليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون. والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم. والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالأرجون القديم. لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون. وآية لهم أنا حملنا ذريتهم في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون. وإن نشأ نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومتاعا إلى حين. وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون. وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين. وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أنطعم من لو يشاء الله أطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يخصمون فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون ونفخ في الصور من الأجداث ونفخ في الثور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أحد إليكم يا بني آدم أن لا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لطمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون ومن نعمره ننكسه في الخلق أفلا يعقلون وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وذللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم ير الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحييها الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون صدق الله العظيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد سورة المباركة الفاتحة
محمد وآل محمد صلوات
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
तू अगर होता तो ऐसा नहीं होता हाज़िर तू अगर होता तो ऐसा नहीं होता गाजी। कब्र अब्बास पे ज़ैनब ये सदा देती थी। कब्र अब्बास पे ज़ैनब ये सदा देती थी। तू अगर होता तो ऐसा नहीं होता गाजी। कभी असरब तो कभी सुए नजफ देखते थे। कभी तेरे कटे शानों की तरफ देखते थे। शहने अकबर के कलेजे से निकाली बर्छी। तू अगर होता तो ऐसा नहीं होता गाजी। प्यास में भी तुझे आवाज दिए जाते थे। ज़ेरे खंजर भी तेरा नाम लिए जाते थे। गर्दने शाह पे जब शिमर चलाता था छुरी। गर्दने शाह पे जब शिमर चलाता था छुरी। तू अगर होता तो ऐसा नहीं होता गाजी। मेरे हाथों को भी रस्सी से गया था बांधा। मैं भी हाथों का न ले पाई सहारा भैया। जैसे तू जी से गिरा वैसे मैं नाके से गिरी। तू अगर होता तो ऐसा नहीं होता गाजी। कैद खाना भी गरीबी पे मेरे रोता है। लाश मस्तूर उठाए ये कहाँ होता है। फर्ज बेटों का निभाई अली की बेटी। तू अगर होता तो ऐसा नहीं होता गाजी। कैसे बतलाऊं वो दरबार का मंजर भैया। खेलता था सर सरवर से सितमगर भैया। मारता था मेरे मजलूम के होठों पे छरी। मारता था मेरे मजलूम के होठों पे छरी। तू अगर होता तो ऐसा नहीं होता गाजी। कब्र में चैन से मासूम को सोने न दिया। वो सितम धाया गया कांप गई कर भोबला। लाश ढूंढी गई नेज़ों से अली असगर की। लाश ढूंढी गई नेज़ों से अली असगर की। तू अगर होता तो ऐसा नहीं होता गाजी। लड़खड़ाते थे बहुत पाँव तो घिर जाते थे। हो कहाँ मेरे जवानों के ये फरमाते थे। लाश मिलती न थी भैया को अली अकबर की। तू अगर होता तो ऐसा नहीं होता गाजी। तू अगर होता तो ऐसा नहीं होता गाजी। मोहम्मद व आल मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाहु।
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Our condolences to the Imam of our time and to all mu'mineen as we gather today to commemorate the Wafaat of Bibi Ummul Baneen alayhi salam. Kindly recite aloud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Mu'mineen, kindly join me in reciting a Surah Fatiha for Marhum Muhammad Bhai Hassan Ali SS Al Arakia, Marhum Muhammad Zaki Jagani, Marhuma Nazneen Muhammad Hussain Jagani, and Kul Marhumin Al Fatiha. A few quick announcements. The Al Qisar sisters would like to invite all ladies to their next online Ayyamul Bidh Ibadat night to be held tomorrow, Friday the 5th of December at 8:30 p.m. The lecture will be by Sister Masuma Hassan. Further details have been circulated via the Jamaat's broadcast channels. The Ladies Committee would like to invite all ladies and children to the Lady of Light event to be held here at the Al Mahdi Center this Sunday, the 7th of December. The program will commence at 1:45 p.m. sharp. It is meant to be an engaging afternoon filled with activities, sisterhood bonding, and socializing. Ladies are invited to bring along a homemade dish inspired by your mother's recipe. The organizers hope to collect the recipes and create a small Sadaqah Jariyah booklet. All ladies are kindly encouraged to register their attendance using the link sent out by email and WhatsApp. We will inshallah be holding a program here at the center next Thursday, the 11th of December, to celebrate the wiladat of Sayyidah Fatima alayha salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The program will commence at 7:45 p.m. and the majlis will inshallah be recited by Sheikh Nuru Muhammad. For tonight's majlis, we are honored once again to have the opportunity to host Sayyid Muhammad Naqvi from Watford. Please, from Sayyid Muhammad Rizvi from Watford. Please join me reciting 3 salawat as we welcome him to the member. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين ثم الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على أفضل الموجودات العبد المؤيد الرسول المسدد المصطفى الأمجد والمحمود الأحمد سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا والشفيع ذنوبنا أبي القاسم محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين من الأولين والآخرين. قال الله تبارك وتعالى بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم واذكر في الكتاب إسماعيل إنه كان صادق الوعد وكان رسولا نبيا صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala بحق بيبي Baneen سلام الله عليها. Tonight, anyone who has hajat, anyone who has du'as, anyone who has trials and tribulations, بحق Baneen سلام الله عليها, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses them and gets rid of any trials, any tribulations, or accepts any desires and hajat. بحق Baneen Salamullahi alayha. In the words of one of the ulama who says, one day I made a lot of tawassul with Abu al-Fadl Abbas alayhi salatu wassalam because something was worrying me, something was stressing me out. And as you know, we have ways of making tawassul with A'imma Ahlul Bayt and other members of Ahlul Bayt alayhimu salatu wassalam other than A'imma. Hazrat Abbas being one of them, Babul Hawa'ij, Imam Musa ibn Ja'far being one of them, Babul Hawa'ij. And he says, I mentioned the name of Abu al-Fadl again and again and again to call him for something that was bothering me. And he says, at night when I went to sleep, I saw Hazrat Abbas in a dream. And he said to me, what is it? You keep calling me, you've called me. He says, Ya Mawla, Ya O my master, Sayyidi Mawla, I have a haja. He says, then call on to my mother, Ummul Baneen. Ummul Baneen, without a doubt, is a very powerful way of making wasila, making tawassul with Ahlul Bayt alayhimu salatu wasalam and for the acceptance of hajat and dua. And we all have du'as. Who doesn't have dua? Ad-dunya darul bala. Dunya is a and dunya is a place of trials and tribulation. Ad-dunya sijnul mu'min. Dunya is like a prison for the believer. We all come, when we all come to this farsha azah, when we all come to the majlis, no majlis is small, no majlis is no majlis is lighter than the other majlis. Every majlis in which there is acceptance from Allah and Ahlul Bayt is to be taken as a form of success of the mu'min, because we have come here for one reason and one reason alone, for the pleasure of Allah, for the pleasure of His Nabi and the pleasure of the Al of the Nabi. Sallu ala Muhammadin wa Ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa Ali. We remember a lady, Salamullahi alayha, who, of course, like her son, is known for her loyalty. And so tonight I want to discuss levels of loyalty, types of loyalty, and when loyalty reaches a level where death has no meaning, it goes beyond death. Loyalty can be of different types. With the respected Maulana, with your permission, inshallah, loyalty can be of different types. Sometimes you have somebody who is loyal to the land. Somebody is loyal to the land he is born in. Somebody, I am born in so-and-so place. I am loyal to that land. I feel that land is my home. I could live anywhere. But I have a loyalty towards the land. Somebody has loyalty towards the city. Because we belong to this city. We've been raised in this city. We have been educated in this city. My forefathers are buried in this city. And so this leads to nationalism sometimes. It leads to patriotic movements and other mindsets and movements. And sometimes you find that people have lived their whole life. Let's say people have lived their whole life in the West. It happens a lot. In the Pakistani community, it happens a lot. They've lived the whole life in the West. But when they die, they make a wasiyah, we want to be buried back where we came from, in our own villages and our own towns and cities. Why? You lived here about 40, 45 years, 50 years you lived here. But no, when I die, I make a wasiyah that you take me back and you bury me to where my forefathers, because he still or she still feels a connection, a loyalty with the land. Another form of loyalty is a loyalty towards your cause. Now that cause could be religious or non-religious, but I am loyal to the cause. And for this reason, sometimes you find people will join movements, a socialist movement, a communist movement, a liberal movement, a nationalist, political or non-political, religious or non-political, or non-religious. Because there is a loyalty to a cause, it brings people together. Yes? Doesn't matter, I'm not discussing is it political, is it religious or non, it doesn't matter. People have loyalty. You can be of any religion, any creed, color, race. You can live anywhere in the world, but you feel that sometimes you have a loyalty to a cause, and that brings people together. Loyalty can of course be good and bad. You could have a bad cause, you could have a negative cause. And sometimes loyalty is to the family. I'm loyal to my tribe. I'm loyal to my family. That sometimes it could possess somebody. That somebody could say, even if my family is wrong, I still defend them. Even if my tribe is wrong, because I'm loyal. And this used to be the case for the Arabs, pre-Islamic Arabia. Whoever bothered to investigate what the chief of the tribe is doing is right or wrong? Nobody bothered to investigate that. As long as he's done it, khalas. As long as he's given somebody his promise, his oath, we are part of it. The chief of my tribe says we will not fight that tribe, we don't fight that tribe. The chief of my tribe says we shall fight that tribe, even though it's for the sake of a sheep or a cow that was stolen by somebody. We'll fight them to the last breath, and they go and fight. Whoever stopped to discuss, investigate about who's right, who's wrong? Nobody. Because the loyalty was to the tribe, the loyalty is to the chief, the master of the tribe, the tribal leader. And you can still find that this sort of thing still exists today in the modern world, in the so-called educated world. However, we within the religion of Islam, we say the best loyalty is the loyalty to the religion. The best loyalty for man is to be loyal to his creator, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And of course, when religion is established, when you've established out of all of religions, that the only religion that stands firm is the religion of Islam, and within that is the Shia madhab. There's only one religion out of all of religion which stands, in the sense that it is the only true and correct religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, without addition of its messages, without deletion, without any sort of corruption, is a religion of Islam. And that's why you're Muslim. And within the sects of Islam, the only madhab which stands the test of its truthfulness, its accuracy with which it speaks and propagates, with which the message has reached you, is the madhab of the Shia, and that's why you're Shia. Yes? And I say this without any reservation. You look through all of the sects, you will find, and if you truly, genuinely look through them and you want to learn and research, you will find that there will come a point they will run out of answers for you. But your questions won't finish. You still have questions. And there's nothing wrong with having questions. As-su'al nisful ilm. As-su'al, or the question, is half of ilm. If one doesn't have a question, then one is not learning. Of course, one must have a question for the sake of learning. The only madhab which answers all of your questions and quenches your thirst is the madhab of Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. And so when a madhab quenches your thirst, when an ideology quenches your thirst, then you and I must become loyal to that. You see, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks of Ismail alayhi salam, the verse that I recited in the beginning of the khutbah. And remember Ismail, he fulfilled, he was truthful. Sadiqul Wa'ad. He was somebody who was faithful and faithfully fulfilled. وَإِبْرَاهِيمَ الَّذِي وَفَّى. And then Quran says, and Ibrahim. So Ismail and Ibrahim both have been praised for their loyalty. And you know the story. Ibrahim, you are to sacrifice this, Ismail. Father says to son, I've seen a dream that I'm sacrificing you. What do you say? He says, Father, if it is the hukm of Allah, then so be it. The point being that Allah doesn't stop at Ibrahim. Ibrahim, mashallah, you've passed the test. Ibrahim alladhi wafa, Ibrahim and his wafa. And what wafa of Ibrahim? Which father can put the son under the knife? واذكر في الكتاب إسماعيل. But then he speaks of Ismail. In other words, Allah speaks of the sacrifice and the sacrificer. You with me? Yes, there's two here. It's not that only the loyalty of Ibrahim is praised. You were very loyal to your Lord. Your Lord commanded you to do a thing that no father could do, and you did it. And then Allah intervened and stopped it. But Allah says Ibrahim is loyal, Ismail is loyal as well, because the son says whatever is the hukm of Allah. This is the hukm of Father. If this is the hukm, then whatever is the hukm of Allah. So Allah praises both the sacrifice and the sacrificer. So when you praise Abul Fadl, who is a sacrifice, you must also praise the mother Ummul Baneen who raised him. Yes? And so here begins the test of your and my loyalty. Ummul Baneen, how she raised her son with loyalty. But we're tested on a daily for our loyalty. If you've connected with Abul Fadl and Ummul Baneen, and you come here as lovers of Abbas and Ummul Baneen, there's only one thing that brought you out tonight: the love of Ummul Baneen, salamullahi alayha. Salamullahi alayki ya Ummul Baneen. That love. There's only one reason that brought you out here tonight. You could have been anywhere. Every day you and I are tested for the loyalty. Loyalty, our loyalty towards our cause, and our cause is Husseini. Yes? That's why you go Arba'in. That's why you go Ziyarah. Because you're loyal to the Imam and his cause. Inni silmun liman wa harbun liman. Loyalty. You make dua, oh Allah, in dunya I want to be with them, in akhirah I want to be with them. Loyalty. I am at peace with those who are at peace with Imam al-Hussein. Man adaha faqad adani. Let's go to Sayyidah Fatima. You're at peace with those who are the friends of Fatima and the lovers of Fatima, and you hate those who hate Fatima. Loyalty. What else is it? You're loyal to the cause. And if anybody comes against the cause, you have a problem with them. How are we tested? Every morning the first test of my loyalty is Salatul Fajr. If I am who I am, then how loyal am I to the cause? How loyal am I to Rasulullah? How loyal am I to Ummul Baneen wa Abul Fadl Abbas? The first test of loyalty is the Salah. Do I pass that test or do I fail that test? I know. We all know. I begin my day with the name of God, with the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the tasbih of Fatima, or I begin the day by sleeping through that. It's a test of loyalty. Everything is a test of loyalty. Christmas is coming up. My company has a Christmas Eve dinner or party. We have to sit, and there will be colleagues and staff members who will be drinking alcohol. My loyalty is tested. Yes? What am I going to do? Am I loyal to the company or loyal to Rasulullah? Am I loyal to the sleep Or am I loyal to Rasulullah? You know, an alim once said a beautiful thing. If I remember correctly, Agha Panahiyan. He said, if you find it hard to pray for Allah, this is deep, huh? If you find it hard to pray for Allah because you pray for Allah, we all pray for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you find it hard to pray for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, okay, take a step back. Pray for Imam Hussein then. At the time of Salah, where would Imam Hussein want to see his follower? You can't get yourself up for God? Switch the strategy. At the time of Salah, where would the Imam want to see me? At the time of Salatul Fajr, when it's hard to get up. Yeah? In the cold nights especially. And he says, when you stand on that prayer of Salah, you give respect to the word of the Imam and the Prophet. You want to respect the Imam? You want to respect Rasulullah? Then do not negate their or ignore their commands. By sleeping through that, it is as if, unfortunately, we have negated that command. Every day is a test of loyalty. What do I do Christmas Eve? When all work companies will call you for dinners and parties and meetings and whatnot that have alcohol. What do I do? Where is the loyalty? And nobody said it's going to be easy. Loyalty requires sacrifice. Abul Fadl gave Allah, you know what he gave? He gave everything he had. Loyalty required sacrifice. Of course, the level of Abul Fadl is something that you and I can never even comprehend or even reach. At most, you and I can become loyal. And we'll be known through loyalty. Whereas Abbas had reached a rank where loyalty was known through him. You know, you mentioned somebody such as, mashallah, he's a charitable person. He gives a lot to the Husayniyah. He gives a lot. He does a lot of khidmah. Mashallah, he recites the dua every Thursday. He had a good qira'ah. His pronunciation is very good. See, they're known through things. They're known through characteristics. Whereas Wafaat, loyalty is a characteristic which was known through Abul Fadl. And it was that which was instilled within him by his mother. From the very first day when she enters the house of Imam Amirul Mu'mineen, she says, do not call them brothers. What should we call them? Call them Sayyidi wa Mawlai. Abul Fadl Abbas was taught, and his brothers were taught, not even addressed to them as brothers. That loyalty had reached a level where Abbas would not see anything except that he would see Hussein before it, Hussein within it, and Hussein after it. Death. You know, sometimes when you see death, it scares you. It's natural. Something really shocks you. I could have died. Something could have happened. You see why? And you ask them, why? What happened? He says, I saw death. I looked death in the eye. How many times people say that? They go through experiences. Abbas would not even see death. Because of his loyalty, he would only see Hussein. And when you understand that, you understand Ummul Baneen. You know why? You know what the narration saying? Keep loyalty in mind. Quickly on death. Death, the narrations of Ma'sumin. Death is nothing but a bridge that you cross from this dunya into the other. Death is something that comes to you every night when you sleep, except that the other death will be longer. From the fifth Imam. Death for the mu'min is freedom from the prison. Yeah, you have all these narrations on death. Death is like a sweet fragrance for the mu'min. Death is like taking off old clothes and putting on new clothes for the mu'min, and vice versa for the kafir. Taking off good clothes and putting on old attire. Death for the mu'min is the best time of his life, and for the kafir the worst time of his life. Okay? So there are all these narrations. Now imagine if death for the mu'min is this, then what death would be for somebody who's a shaheed fi hubb al-Husayn. This is for the mu'min. This is not for Abu al-Fadl or even Ummul Baneen. This is for a mu'min. If we reach that level, even we can have that. Question. Then why fear of death? When loyalty drops, the fear of death increases. And when loyalty increases, the fear of death decreases until it diminishes, until it's gone. You see? And you've probably seen this in your life with people who have passed. Good people can have a good death, and good people can have a bad death. Somebody dies, a marhum in the community, for example. He died very easily. MashaAllah, he died in his sleep. But how many times have you heard of mu'mineen who are fighting they're fighting to die, where the ruh is really struggling to come out, and the last few moments of sakaratul maut are the most difficult. We've seen this. Sometimes the mu'min dies at peace. Sometimes if there are sins on the shoulders of the mu'min, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sometimes increases that last moment of death, that pain of death, or He will give them a sickness, so that through that suffering He cleanses them before they enter the next world. Sometimes is a mu'min, because Allah does not want to, out of His mercy, punish the mu'minin in hereafter. Maybe He will inflict a sickness, and even within sickness there is rahmah of Allah. Why? Because the narration say a night in fever. You spend a night in fever. It removes sins shed like leaves shed from the tree. So even in that there is a rahmah. You might say, how? Zahma, but no. We see zahma because we see the sweat of the fever. We don't see the rahmah that is behind the veil. And these things are like that. And the narration say, because of his last few days that he or she has spent, and when the ruh is extracted, Allah makes the next steps easier. But then you can have a bad person have a bad death, and also a bad person have a good death. He was a tyrant. He was a zalim. And he died at peace. A bad person dying a bad death makes sense, doesn't need explanation. But a bad person dying a good death, it is possible that that bad person, even though he's a tyrant, may have done something good in his life. But because the tyrant is hell-bound, Allah doesn't want to give him that. Allah is adil, is just, He's got to give it. Anybody who does an atom's weight of good shall see it. Doesn't matter who he is. It could be the tyrant. It could be a zalim. If he has done good, you're going to see it. But what Allah does, He gives it to them in dunya. So that in akhirah now, they have to face what they earned by the zulm and the oppression. And so sometimes the death of the bad people can become easier. But then there is another death, unlike any other death, which is a maut of shahada. This type of death, the way it has been praised in Islam, has not been praised anywhere else. Martyrdom within the religion of Islam. To the extent that all of our Ahlul Bayt, 14 infallibles, are either killed by the sword or by the poison. None of them leaves this dunya except maqtu' or masmoom. This is the best death. This is the best form of martyrdom, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to some of His anbiya, Ahlul Bayt, and some of the mu'mineen, some of the pious mu'mineen. When loyalty reaches a level where it's maximized, then death has no meaning. And so every day you and I are trained. Pray your salah, you're trained. Pay your khums, you're trained. When you can, every now and then, try to get up for Salatul Layl. You train the willpower. People say, how do you train the willpower? Salatul Layl is the ulama says, one of the best ways to train the willpower. I do not want to get up, but I will have that willpower and get up. It's a training. It's a form of a training. And so when loyalty, now look at the companions of Imam Hussein, look at Ahlul Bayt, that reached the level that one of them as young as 13 says, Al-mawtu ahla min al-asal. Death to me is sweeter than honey. Why? Wallahi ya am, by God, Uncle Hussein, if it's for your nusrah, if it's for your sake, if it's to help you, Qasim sees death sweeter than honey, or in today's terminology, sweeter than candy. Because those children used to eat honey. Right? Today they eat sweets and candy. Some of the ulama said this sentence also speaks of how young Qasim was. Yes? Or that moment when Ali al-Akbar salamullahi alayhi asks his father, Alasna ala al-haq? Oh father, are we not on the truth? Look at the loyalty. He says, son, if we're not on the haq, then who is? Then he says, then oh father, I do not worry if death befalls upon us or we fall upon death. If death comes to us or we go to death. It doesn't matter. The level of loyalty was such in the companions of Imam Hussein. If we're killed, burnt to ashes, those ashes are thrown into the air 1,000 times. Ma taraktuka ya Hussein. We won't leave you, ya Hussein. These are the companions. They are statements of companions from the night of Ashura and the Maqatil. So why is it that man fears death? You know why man fears death? One of the ulama gives, Sheikh Qara'ati gives an example. He's a mufassir of the Quran. He says, imagine in today's world, if you want to give an example of today's life, imagine a driver who drives a very expensive car. He's scared to crash it. He's scared somebody else might crash it. And if it's crashed, it's gone, it's done. He's lost everything. Especially if he's worked hard, saving over the years to buy himself a very expensive car, a Lamborghini, a Ferrari, or whatever. He becomes fearful of driving. Sometimes fear of something else. Doesn't know where he's going. Doesn't know the route. Phone is dead. No connection. Sometimes fear of losing out on the mileage, or petrol is finished. I won't get to the petrol station. Different reasons why the driver fears driving. He fears that if that car is damaged, it's gone, it's finished. In the same way, insan fears death because he thinks death is the end. Yet the companions of Imam al-Hussein show us that death is not the end. Death is just the beginning. The level of loyalty increases, the more the love for Imam al-Hussein increases. And real love brings in amal, brings in action, it brings in deeds. You know, your love, one of the ulama says something beautiful. He says, the 12th Imam, you pray for his return? He says, yes. He says, if you have never shed tears for your separation for the 12th Imam, then you have truly never missed him. Because when you miss somebody, you shed tears for them. If I haven't shed tears for the 12th Imam, then truly I haven't missed him yet. Love, if it intensifies and increases loyalty, and it causes one to spring up in action. Love of the 12th Imam. Where is my loyalty to the 12th Imam? Friday, dua nudba. How many times? Or forget Friday. Every morning, one salam to the 12th Imam. How long does that take? My loyalty to Imam al-Hussein, how many times do I go to Karbala? What efforts do I take to go to Karbala? To go and visit the holy. You know, ziyarah, visitation of the Aimma, is a physical representation of your loyalty to the Imam that you're visiting. That this ala zahir is my loyalty towards you, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen. Ya Aba Abdullah, when you stand in front of the grave of Imam al-Hussein and you recite the salam, you give him the salam. This is a sign of my loyalty towards the holy Imam. A sign of the loyalty of Ummul Baneen towards the cause of Imam al-Hussein was that she gave her sons. And she never even asked about them. From a young age is how she trained her sons. I'll give you a narration before my time is reaching an end, before I give you Masaib. Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wassalam. Is sitting and his sons are in front of his young sons. Abu al-Fadl Abbas, his brothers, the sons of Baneen, Imam al-Hussein, Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam. The narration says in the book Khasa'is al-Abbasiyah that Imam Hussein becomes thirsty. Abu al-Fadl springs up and he runs towards his mother Baneen in the house. That's how she trained. Look how she trains them from a young age. And he says, "Oh mother, my master has become thirsty." She gets up. The narration says she gets up with speed. She rushes. She brings out a pot of water and she gives it to her son. She takes this. He takes this pot of water and he rushes back to Imam al-Hussein. And as he rushes back, this water is spilling on him. His clothes have become wet. Imam Amir al-Mu'min looks at his son Abu al-Fadl Abbas and he says to him, "Ya bunayya, anta saqi al-atsha." It is as if Amir al-Mu'min looked at him and from ilm al-ghayb he thought of Karbala. Because he knew about Karbala. When he returned from Siffin, he passed through Nainawa and he cried for Karbala. He had that in his ilm al-imamah. But look at how Ummul Baneen Salamullahi alayhi instills that loyalty. This is your Imam. Whatever small you can do for your Imam, do it. You can take him water today, Abbas, go take him water. And if you can give your hands tomorrow, then give your arms for Hussein. Whatever small I can do today. One of the ulama says something beautiful. He says every Friday, it's mustahab on the Friday to give sadaqah. He says every Friday, make it a habit when you give sadaqah for yourself and your family members. Include in that sadaqah the 12th Imam. What is the harm in that? Give sadaqah on his behalf. Do something for the 12th Imam. Give it ajr and thawab to the 12th Imam. 2 units of prayer, salat, hadiyah to the 12th Imam in the morning or in the evening at Maghrib. And give it as a gift. Some of the ulama say recite 3 times. Our teachers used to say in Qum 3 times Qul huwallahu ahad and give it as a gift to Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen and Sayyidah Fatima. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala. What else could you and I really give to the Imams? What do we have to give to them? Nothing. The hands are empty. And yet the book of deeds of bad deeds is full. We have nothing to offer them except tears. So when we gather and we commemorate in these majalis, we shed tears with the hope that with these tears, Allah will wash off my sins. Ayatollah Wahid al-Khurasani, as he says, and I always narrate this, he says, on the day of judgment, I have nothing to show to Allah. I don't have deeds. I have no guarantee of my prayers and fasts and hajj and zakat. But there is one thing that I can guarantee. Hubb al-Hussein. That was not, you can force someone to pray. Get up, it's Fajr. You can force someone to do the ibadat, but you cannot force anyone to shed a tear for Hussein. This is why the tear has so much value, that the one who sheds a tear, even if it's the size of a mosquito's wing, the hadith says, وَجَبَتْ لَهُ الْجَنَّةِ. Man baka wa abka, the one who cries, the one who makes somebody cry. And if you cannot cry, the hadith, this is important. Either you cry, well and good, or you recite something, you make others cry. But the hadith says, if you're not one of those two, you're not crying, and you're not a zakir or a mullah who recites to make others cry, then be one of the third ones, the third category. What is that, Yabna Rasulillah? He says, make a face as if you're crying. Show expressions of grief. Don't just sit there. Make expression of grief. Baba, this is the majlis of Imam al-Hussein. Look down, look sad. I can't cry. To be honest, if one cannot cry, just that thought should bring tears to my eyes. Why can I not cry? The ulama would say, when you sit on the majlis, your first dua, Ya Allah, give me tawfiq to shed a tear tonight. Ajrukum ala Allah. Where do I begin the musibah of Ummul Baneen? May Allah take you to Jannatul Baqi. May Allah show us that day when there are domes on the qubur of A'immah of Baqi. This is a lady who without a doubt occupies the highest rank after Fatima from amongst the Azwaj Amir al-Mu'mineen. Oh Shia, when the caravan of Imam al-Sajjad and Bibi Zainab returns to Medina, Imam stops outside of Medina and he calls Bishr. Oh Bishr, your father was a poet. Do you recite something from poetry or not? He says, Yabna Rasulillah, Sayyidi Mawlai, I can recite some poem. He says, go to Medina and recite a Marsiyah for my father Hussein. And you know the Marsiyah is famous. He comes rushing to Medina. And he comes where? He comes in that muhalla known as the muhalla of Bani Hashim and Sadat. He says, Ya Ahl al-Madina, Ya Ahl Yathrib la muqamu lakum biha qutil al-Husayn. He comes to Medina and he says, Oh Sadat, oh Banu Hashim, Medina is not the same anymore. They say, what do you mean the chief of Medina is no more? The master of Medina has been killed. The elder of Medina is no more. They say, what do you mean? He says, Qutil al-Husayn. They have killed Aba Abdullah. And he recites until he passes by the house of Amir al-Mu'mineen where Ali used to live. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, and he passes by the homes of Ahlul Bayt, and he passes by the house where there is a daughter by the name of Fatima Sughra, also known by the Arabs as Fatima Alila. Ajrukum ala Allah. There is a lady that comes out and she says, Oh Bishr, come closer. He comes closer. What news do you bring of Karbala? He says, Oh lady, who are you? She says, I am Ummul Baneen. I am the mother of Abul Fadl. He says, Ajrukum ala Allah. May Allah accept your tears tonight. May Allah take you to Karbala and Baqi. He says, O Ummul Baneen, may Allah give you ajr. Your son Ja'far was killed on the plains of Karbala. She says, no, ma sa'altuka an Ja'far. I didn't ask you about Ja'far. He says, your son Abdullah was killed. One by one he names the son and he says, your son Abul Fadl. He gave every drop of his blood for Abi Abdullah. She says, no, akhbirni anil Hussein. Tell me what happened to my master Hussein. Ajrukum ala Allah. The news reaches Fatima to Alila. You know this Ummul Baneen, by the way. She was someone who would go into Baqi and she would dig the graves and she would make 4 graves. Marwan says this. Marwan ibn al-Hakam alayhi la'an. He says, one day I was passing by Baqi. I saw there was a woman who was crying and her lamenting brought tears to my eyes. I've never seen anybody cry like that. She's sitting in Baqi and she said she sheds tears. He says, I wanted to go and see who it was. He says, says, I entered the graveyard of Baqi. I came closer. What did I hear? I see there is a lady who cries and she says, "Oh people of Medina, oh women of Medina, do not call me Ummul Baneen anymore." Why? Because Ummul Baneen is the mother of sons. I do not have any sons. Ayatollah Jawadi says this, that Ummul Baneen in her Marsiya would say this. She would cry and she would turn towards Karbala and she would say this. She would say, "Oh Abbas, I heard that you held the water bag with your teeth." "Oh Abbas, why would you hold the water bag with your teeth?" Who would tell Ummul Baneen what happened to Abul Fadl? Why did Abbas hold the water bag with his teeth? Oh Shia, Abbas did not have any arms to hold the water bag. It was two reasons he didn't let it go. One, because Abul Fadl al-Abbas had promised Sakina that as long as he lives, he will make sure the water reaches the tents. What is the other? The other is that Abbas initially was holding the bag with his hands. And yet when it was the strike of the enemies, when he lost his arms, it is then the water bag falls to the ground. I leave you with this, ajrukum ala Allah. News reaches the house of Muhammad ibn Hanafiya. News reaches the house of Ummul Baneen and Fatima to Alila. This Fatima comes to her uncle Muhammad Hanafiya. Who is he? He is the son of Amir al-Mu'mineen, is the brother of Imamain al-Hasanain. She says, she comes into the room. What does he see? Muhammad Hanafiya is sleeping. She says, "Oh uncle, wake up. There is news from Karbala." He says, "What do you mean?" He says, "Somebody just walked by and says, Hussein, my father is no more." It says he jumps up and he falls to the ground. He says, "Oh my child, what are you saying?" She says, "Yes, oh uncle, somebody walked by and he recited something from my father." What did he say? He says, "Hussein's head was severed and raised onto the spears." Ajrakum ala Allah. I leave you with this. He mounts the horse. Where are Ahlul Bayt? Ahlul Bayt are outside of Medina. He mounts the horse until he reaches the caravan of Imam al-Sajjad. Now listen to this final line and I leave you here. When he comes close to Imam al-Sajjad, Imam Sajjad recognizes his uncle. But when Muhammad Hanafiya comes close, he doesn't recognize Imam al-Sajjad. He says, "Who are you?" Imam Sajjad says, "I am your son, Sajjad." "You don't recognize your son?" How would he recognize his son? His son has been paraded from Karbala to Kufa and Kufa to Sham. His son has seen his women come in front of Yazid and the people of Kufa. I leave you with this. When Imam Sajjad says, "I am your son, Sajjad," Muhammad ibn Hanafiya could not bear it. Do you know what happens to him? Grief overtakes him. He faints and he falls to the ground. Imam Sajjad takes him. But I leave you with this, oh Muhammad ibn Hanafiya, you just heard it and it had taken over you that you could not tolerate it. Imagine Sayyida Zainab Atullah Zainabiyya. Imagine Imam Sajjad on the night of Ashura and Sham-e Ghariban. What Muhammad ibn Hanafiya could not tolerate, Sayyida Zainab saw with her own eyes. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. परवदिगारा इस इबादत को अपनी बारगाह में कबूल व मंजूर फरमा. परवदिगारा हमारे आंसुओं को रुमाल जनाब सैयदा में जगह इनायत फरमा. परवदिगारा जो परेशान है उसकी परेशानी दूर फरमा. जिसकी हाजात हैं बेहक़ बीबी उम्मुल बनीन सलामुल्लाहि अलैहा, उनकी हाजात को कबूल व मंजूर फरमा. वास्ता मोहम्मद व आले मोहम्मद का परवदिगारा हम सबको करबला वालों की ज़ियारत से मुशर्रफ फरमा. वास्ता मोहम्मद व आले मोहम्मद का परवदिगारा कोई गम न देना सिवाय गम हुसैन के. मरहुमीन के दराजात बुलंद फरमा. मरीज़ों को शिफा आजिला कामिला अता फरमा. बीबी जनाब हज़रत उम्मुल बनीन सलामुल्लाह अलैहा का हम पर खुसूसी करम फरमा. व आखिरु दावाना अनिल हम्दुलिल्लाहि रब्बिल आलमीन. मातम हुसैन.
आ देख मेरे गाजी ऊंचा है अलम तेरा, आ देख मेरे गाजी ऊंचा है अलम तेरा, आ देख मेरे, सब मिल के पढ़े, ऊंचा है अलम तेरा, आ देख तेरा, दिल सीने में जब तक है भूलेगा ना गम तेरा, आ देख मेरे गाजी ऊंचा है अलम तेरा, आ देख मेरे गाजी तेरा, ज़ैनब की दुआ बनकर एक वक्त वो आएगा, ज़ैनब की दुआ बनकर एक वक्त वो आएगा, हर घर पे सजा होगा अब्बास अलम तेरा, दिल सीने में जब तक है भूलेगा ना गम तेरा, आ देख मेरे ऊंचा है अलम तेरा, आ देख ऊंचा तेरा, आ जाती है ज़हरा भी ज़ैनब भी ज़ियारत को, आ जाती है ज़हरा भी ज़ैनब भी ज़ियारत को, जब 8 मुहर्रम को उठता है अलम तेरा, दिल सीने में जब तक है भूलेगा ना गम तेरा, आ देख मेरे गाजी ऊंचा है अलम तेरा, आ देख ऊंचा तेरा, ताबूत जब उठता है शबीर का ए गाजी, ताबूत जब उठता है शबीर का ए गाजी, ताबूत के आगे भी चलता है अलम तेरा, दिल सीने में जब तक है भूलेगा ना गम तेरा, आ देख मेरे गाजी ऊंचा है अलम तेरा, आ देख मेरे ऊंचा है अलम तेरा, जब बह गया सब पानी तब आस तेरी टूटी, जब बह गया सब पानी तब आस तेरी टूटी, थे सीने के अंदर या मशकीज़े में दम तेरा, दिल सीने में जब तक है भूलेगा ना गम तेरा, आ देख मेरे गाजी ऊंचा है अलम तेरा, आ देख मेरे गाजी ऊंचा है अलम तेरा, और मोहम्मद आली मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाहु زرت وارثة. السلام عليك يا وارث آدم صفوة الله، السلام عليك يا وارث نوح النبي الله، السلام عليك يا وارث إبراهيم خليل الله، السلام عليك يا وارث موسى كليم الله، السلام عليك يا وارث عيسى روح الله، السلام عليك يا وارث محمد حبيب الله، السلام عليك يا وارث أمير المؤمنين ولي الله، السلام عليك يا ابن محمد المصطفى. السلام عليك يا ابن علي المرتضى. السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة الزهراء. السلام عليك يا ابن خديجة الكبرى. السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن ثاره والوتر الموتور. أشهد أنك قد أقمت الصلاة وآتيت الزكاة وأمرت بالمعروف ونهيت عن المنكر وأطعت الله ورسوله حتى أتاك اليقين. فلعن الله أمة قتلتك، ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك، ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به. يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، أشهد أنك كنت نورا في الأصلاب الشامخة والأرحام المطهرة، لم تنجسك الجاهلية بأنجاسها ولم تلبسك من مدلهمات ثيابها. وأشهد أنك من دعائم الدين وأركان المؤمنين. وأشهد أنك الإمام البر التقي الرضي الزكي الهادي المهدي. وأشهد أن الأئمة من ولدك كلمة التقوى وعلام الهدى والعروة الوثقى والحجة على أهل الدنيا. وأشهد الله وملائكته وأنبياءه ورسله أني بكم مؤمن وبي بكم موقن بشرائع ديني وخواتيم عملي، وقلبي لقلبكم سلم وأمري لأمركم متبع. صلوات الله عليكم وعلى أرواحكم وعلى أجسادكم وعلى أجسامكم وعلى شاهدكم وعلى غائبكم وعلى ظاهركم وعلى باطنكم. السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله. السلام عليك يا ابن نبي الله. السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا ابن الحسين الشهيد. السلام عليك أيها الشهيد وابن الشهيد. السلام عليك أيها المظلوم وابن المظلوم. لعن الله أمة قتلتك، ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك، ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به. السلام عليكم يا أولياء الله وأحباءه. السلام عليكم يا أصفياء الله وأوداءه. السلام عليكم يا أنصار دين الله. السلام عليكم يا أنصار رسول الله. السلام عليكم يا أنصار أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليكم يا أنصار فاطمة سيدتي نساء العالمين. السلام عليكم يا أنصار أبي محمد الحسن بن علي الولي الزكي الناصح. السلام عليك يا أنصار أبي عبد الله، بأبي أنتم وأمي طبتم وطابت الأرض التي فيها دفنتم وفزتم فوزا عظيما، فيا ليتني كنت معكم فأفوز معكم. السلام عليك يا أبا الفضل العباس ابن أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا ابن سيد الوصيين. السلام عليك يا ابن أول القوم إسلاما وأقدمهم إيمانا وأقومهم بدين الله وأهوطهم على الإسلام. أشهد لقد نصحت لله ولرسوله ولأخيك فنعم الأخ المواسي. فلعن الله أمة قتلتك، ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك، ولعن الله أمة استحلت منك المحارم وانتهكت حرمة الإسلام. فنعم الصابر المجاهد المحامي الناصر والأخ الدافع عن أخيه المجيب إلى طاعة ربه الراغب فيما زهد فيه غيره من الثواب الجزيل والثناء الجميل. والحقق الله بدرجة آبائك في جنات النعيم. السلام عليك، السلام عليكم يا السلام عليك يا إمام مهدي، أجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك وانصرك. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كل وليك الحجة ابن حسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في وقائدا وناصرا وذليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرزك طوعا وتمتعه فيها